Welcome everybody. Come on in and find a seat. There's plenty of spots down in the front here. We're glad you could be with us this afternoon. Hope you had fun checking out the new student common area and how much fun that's going to be to have for our law school. We're also very fortunate today to have Jeffrey Matsen here, who is an expert on estates and wills planning and business transactions. And he's going to speak to you today about how to build and maintain and grow a law firm. So I hope that you will listen attentively and have some good questions for him, because I feel like you could really learn a lot of information that would be very valuable to you in your careers, whether you decide to form your own firm or not. These kinds of things will apply in whatever you decide to do. So he has graciously offered to stay around a little bit after his presentation as well, if you have additional questions you'd like to ask, or if you have a question during the presentation, you're welcome to ask that at that time as well. So if you'll join me in welcoming Jeffrey Matsen.
Thank you, Mary Lee. I appreciate that, and welcome to all of you. I'm really pleased to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. You have a beautiful facility here, and what an opportunity you have to go to law school here. When I graduated from BYU undergraduate, and I went to law school at UCLA, and so I'm very much a gutty little Bruin. Yes. But when I was here at BYU as an undergraduate, I helped form the Cougar Club, which is the booster club for and I wrote the original bylaws, and so our family very much bleeds Cougar blue, and we still haven't recovered from last week. And it was like, I don't know if any of you have seen the process of shredding paper, and that's what we felt like. We felt like we were completely liquidated and shredded last week, but fortunately there's other things that count in life, and so we're going to talk about some of those other things today. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that when you're in law school, you learn a lot about thinking and legal analysis and how to and what the legal principles are, but you really don't learn a lot of practical information about being a lawyer and how to really, because being a lawyer is much more than knowing legal principles and being able to analyze on a legal basis. It's being a business person too, because if you're part of a law firm, you're really part of a business. And it is a profession and you're offering services, but it's really, you have to understand that it doesn't do any good to be a great lawyer and be a bad business person. Because if you're a great lawyer and a bad business person, you're going to struggle financially. And if you struggle financially, then that means it's a real hit for your family and for you as a professional. So you have to learn to be able to be cognizant of the business considerations as well as the legal. And so if you want to go off into be up on an ivory tower and live in a one-bedroom studio apartment or something, then that's fine. Then you can be a great lawyer and a horrible business person. But if you want to be able to provide for your family and be successful and contribute to the community and contribute to your church, then you need to know how to be a business person too. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to have a career and with an emphasis on really developing a law firm or being part of a firm that is oriented towards providing enough money that you can pay the rent, you can pay salaries, and you can enjoy some of the financial benefits that you need to have to be successful and to raise a family and be a contributing citizen. A little bit about my background, and I don't want to try to make this about me, but it really is, because that's what I wanted to show you, how what happens when you get out in the real world of practicing law. I told you I went to law school at BYU. I went to law school at UCLA after graduating from BYU. I went on a mission for our church and spent 2.5 years in Brazil. That's when missionaries were really missionaries. You spent 2.5 years, not 18 months or 2 years. And I found out that there are really two kinds of missionaries, those who go to Brazil and those who wish they went to Brazil. But anyway, when I went to Brazil, there were 2,000 members of the church in Brazil. Now there's 1.2 million. So I really feel like Brazil is an unbelievable place, and I loved it. And I can tell you that every good thing I've ever done in my life is a result of those 2.5 years I spent in the mission field. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. During the time when I graduated, there was a little thing going on that you may have heard about. It's called Vietnam. So I joined the Marine Corps. I enlisted in an officer program, and between my junior and senior year, I went to basic school, which is like, with a DI, and my DI hated me because he found out I was a returned missionary. And at that time, my parents had moved to a development in California in the Los Angeles area that was called Rolling Hills Estates. And when he saw that, it was the worst thing that could have happened to me, because he thought that it was really meant that I was really a wealthy person. And so he would call me Blue Bloody Matsen. And anything in the Marine Corps, when you're going to basic school, the worst thing that can happen is that you're singled out for anything. And so he took a lot of joy in persecuting me because I was a returned missionary, and because I was a blue bloody. And he expressed his displeasure in language that would not only be inappropriate at BYU, but it would be inappropriate at any other law school. And so I went through that, but at the end of the time, I look back on it now and I said, yeah, I did. And I'm kind of grateful for that experience, for all the challenges I had at that time. I think it made me tougher. And now give me a bayonet and show me the hill. And I'm going to get the job done. Okay, I went into the Marine Corps after law school, but I was recruited by some major firms in LA that are now national firms and might even have offices in Salt Lake, for all I know. And I joined one of those big Los Angeles firms. And when they wined and dined me, and I had a selection of different law firms, or different law firms, and I selected a firm that I really enjoyed. I worked for them as a law clerk between my second and third year. Then they offered me a job. They knew I was going into the Marine Corps, but they wanted me enough that they told me that after they keep my seniority in the firm after I returned for my 3-year time as a Marine Corps officer. So I went into the Marine Corps, and after going through infantry school for 6 months and to Naval Justice School, the Marines are part of the Navy Department. The Navy's kind of like taxi cab drivers for the Marines. And but anyway, and it is part of the Department of the Navy in that way. But of course, Marines hold themselves out because they know how to salute and sailors don't. But anyway, I went to Naval Justice School after I became designated as an infantry officer. And Naval Justice School was in Newport, Rhode Island. It's a lot of fun, and I had some great experiences there, by the way. And then I was sent to El Toro Marine Base in Southern California in Orange County. And the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing was there. And also we did some work with Camp Pendleton. It's a large Marine base there. And also they had Marine bases out in 29 Palms and Barstow, which are places you go through on the way from Los Angeles to Provo or going through Vegas. And you probably wouldn't want to have any more experiences there than stopping by and getting a hamburger at the 2 restaurants they had. But anyway, when I got to El Toro, they named me a defense counsel, and my first case I got a Marine off on a technicality. definitely guilty, but they made an illegal search and seizure. And after that, they made me the head prosecutor. And so I became, and in the Marine Corps and the Navy and even the Army, you're all together, as whether you're a defense counsel or a prosecutor, you work together all in the same in the same office. And there's a lot of repartee, and you play basketball, and we had flag football teams, and we were all together, and we were all buds, and it was really a lot of fun. I made some good friends there, and I really had a good time. It was really enjoyable. And I don't know if you've seen the movie A Few Good Men, but the repartee between Kevin Bacon and Tom Cruise, that was very realistic, the way that movie portrayed it. And then they ran out of senior officers, billets, to serve as the military judge, which is a billet for a colonel. In the movie, it was a black colonel who was serving in A Few Good Men. So they made me the military judge. And so I got to finish off doing that, and I had the unique experience of telling a Marine full-bird colonel that he had to sit down, and he was not the presiding officer in the courtroom, but I was. And you would never challenge a Marine full-bird colonel in most circumstances if you were a young captain. I had that experience. And so anyway, but after I got out of the last part of my time in the Marine Corps, I needed some more money, and I've always enjoyed teaching. So I started to moonlight as a teacher at Western State University College of Law in Fullerton. And I taught there, and at the beginning I taught anything that they let me. But near the end of my time, I knew I wanted to go into the area of taxation, business, and estate planning, so I got them to let me teach those classes, even though I really didn't know a heck of a lot about the subject. But I learned, and I could do it more on an economic, on an esoteric academic basis. And that was a very good thing for me to do from a marketing standpoint, because if you're a teacher, people think you know what you're talking about. And so a lot of the people who were going there, I just taught them at night on a part-time basis. So they were trust officers, bank officers, accountants, financial advisors. So it helped me build up a network of referral sources. So by the time I got out of the Marine Corps, I already had some referral sources, and I was ready to start practicing law. I decided not to go back with a Los Angeles firm. My family liked Orange County, so we stayed down there. I went with a small firm, and within a year they made me a partner because I was bringing in so much business that I had already developed through teaching and making other contacts in the Marine Corps. So my practice in the early years was basically trying to get known and established, and I saw that at that time in Orange County there weren't a lot of sophisticated people in the taxation and business planning area. A lot of the people were just sort of more general practitioners. Now in Orange County, almost every major national firm has a major office. Orange County has about 2.5 million people. It's one of the highest economies in the United States or in the world. So there's a lot of things going on there in Orange County and Newport and Irvine. And I'm in Costa Mesa, right across from South Coast Plaza, which is the world's highest grossing shopping center by volume of dollars spent. So there's a lot of business going on there, and most of the major firms have offices in Orange County. But back then, in the early 70s, there weren't a lot of firms that really did what I do, and so it gave me a niche and an ability to get into that area. One of the things that I've always done is I've enjoyed teaching, so I continued to teach at Western State for almost 15 years on a part-time basis. I taught at Chapman College of Law, which is now a fully accredited and a pretty well-known school of law. And then I started to concentrate on just teaching continuing legal education seminars to other lawyers. And I still do that. And now I speak nationally, and I give national webinars. And I probably do that 3 or 4 times a month. I speak to a national audience. And so my practice in the beginning, I took a lot of cases that now I would never take. I did some divorce, family law stuff. I did some business litigation, things that I would never do now. But I learned a lot, and I was willing to kind of get out there. But at the same time, I realized that, hey, I can't just take a case for the sake of taking the case. I had to take it for the sake of making money, too. And people have to pay. And sometimes if they don't have the ability to pay, then you maybe can't take that case. You can only take so much pro bono work. And you have to remember that, you know, it's a financial obligation on your part that you have to your family, and you have to put bread and butter on the table. And I always tell people, young people, you know, it's meat and potatoes first before you have pie in the sky. You have to, no matter what you do but if you have to be able to have a financial solidarity and a financial foundation in order for you to be successful in anything you want to do. If you want to be involved in the church, if you want to be involved in your community, you have to be successful financially. And you have to make sure that that's a real goal and a very strong vision of that. Because you're not in a position where you can serve in the church, where you can serve in your community, where you can help other people out if you're relying on welfare. You have to be in a position where you take care of yourself and your family. And so I concentrated a little bit on that. I didn't really fully understand that, but I ended up with 7 children. So I did learn that I had to, you know, if I was going to pay for all the things that 7 children cost, that I was going to have a financial, I had to have a financial background and a financial wherewithal. I live in Orange County. I lived in Newport Beach, which is a very affluent area. And so I struggled to be able to maintain a financial foundation living there, making a mortgage payment and prices of property there. A $500,000 home in the Provo area would be worth at least $2 million in Newport Beach. And in fact, it probably is a better built home, and it probably has more property. But you can have a home in Newport Beach for $2 million and not have a backyard. So anyway, that's what you have to, the challenge that you have to face. In the middle years, I didn't really catch on to all that you could do as a lawyer. And so I was a little bit, I just maintained the practice. I was reasonably successful. And then as soon as my children started to flee the coop and I became sort of an empty nester, then I was willing to take more risk, and I really got into marketing. And I merged my firm with a medium-sized litigation firm in Orange County. And I did that because I thought it would give me more opportunity to grow. We now have a whole floor of a major office building. I would never have been able to do that if I was just a sole practitioner. I had 2 or 3 attorneys working for me with paralegals and secretaries, but I needed to have more partners so that I could have the facilities that I needed. And my partners are litigators. They're a little bit perverted because that's most litigators are. But you may want to do that. But litigation drives the growth of a law firm, by the way. So most law firms that have growth do it through litigation. The challenge with litigation is that you have to represent clients who can afford to pay your bills, because litigation is extremely expensive and it goes on forever. And it's easy to have a lot of billable hours no matter what kind of litigation you're doing. A young associate can do 50 hours a week easily on a litigation case. studying all the documents, preparing interrogatories and discovery, preparing the witnesses for interrogatories. It's just unbelievable how much time you can spend in litigation. In my department, this is what we do. We do estate planning, and that's both fundamental and sophisticated. I just met with a lawyer here in Salt Lake who has asked me to help him with a client that's worth probably about $25 million. They're going to pay millions of dollars in estate taxes if they don't plan. We can zero that out for them so that their children don't have to pay zero taxes if you know how to plan. And also, we represent people who just have $1 or $2 million, but they need to avoid probate. So we set up trust and we do their wills. And it's important for them to make sure that their family is well taken care of, that their dispositive wishes happen, and that they can adequately care for their children, that they can leave a legacy. And so we represent them on a more, the more sort of middle class or upper middle class people. We do their work too. We represent a lot of small business owners, and we do a lot of business law. We do business formation. They have contracts that they need reviewed. They sometimes have employee disputes. They might be involved in a business succession plan. That requires compliance to have minutes and make sure that their filings are up to date with the state. So there's a lot of different things that go on involved. Some of our business owners own restaurants. They're car dealers. They have small manufacturing companies. They may be service providers. We have one client that's a national client that they own kitchen equipment that they rent out to trade shows or to golf tournaments or something like that. They go in all over the country, and they could transport a lot of this kitchen equipment. Or, for example, say a hotel is having a major convention, then they provide additional kitchen equipment for the caterers. So we get involved with that. Yes?
I don't see tax on there. I think a lot of people assume that estate planning and these types of things go hand in hand with tax.
Well, it depends on what you mean by tax. There's estate tax, which is obviously a part of tax. Mm-hmm. And that's different than income tax. Estate tax is a tax that's imposed on people on the value of their estate at the time they die, or on gifts. When they make gifts, there's a gift tax. Income tax is a tax that's ongoing, that's taxed on an annual basis. But that's a good point. We do tax planning. Okay. But we're not, when you say a tax lawyer, that's all a tax lawyer does. He is involved with the IRS. If you have disputes with the IRS, he's involved in very sophisticated tax transactions. I've taught corporate tax in the advanced program of taxation for Golden Gate University, and you had to either be a lawyer or a CPA to be in that course. So I know a lot about it, and a lot of the things we do with our business owners involve tax, so I have that background. But if somebody says, are you a tax lawyer? No, I don't just do tax things, but I do know a lot about it. And so that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. But if you're going to be a tax lawyer per se, that's all you would do. We do a lot more than tax. Estate planning involves estate tax planning, but it also involves wills and trusts, setting up business entities. We do a lot of asset protection, and I'm internationally known in that area. We set up domestic trust, and we set up offshore trust. And we do things because asset protection is huge now. The have-nots want to get to the haves. And we live in a victim-oriented society. A few years ago, somebody sued McDonald's in San Diego because they spilled coffee and they got burned. I mean, we don't know as much about coffee as some other people might, but coffee, I think, is supposed to be hot. And if you spill it, you're going to get burned. But we have in our society, it's very victim-oriented now. And there's a lot of lawyers who don't have anything else to do because there are too many lawyers. There are too many lawyers, and you're going to find that out when you graduate. Over half the lawyers that graduated last year, not this year, still don't have a job being a lawyer. So you face a real challenge in getting a job. And so that's a challenge that you're going to have, and so you've got to be thinking about that. And by the way, it's who you know and where you are and what time it is. You got to be at the right place at the right time, and you got to be thinking about that. So you need to manipulate things so that you're in a position where you can get a job. Yes.
You mentioned that you do.
Can you speak up a little louder because we're on the microphone? This is being videoed.
With the domestic asset protection trust, is there a state that you prefer?
Nevada.
You use Nevada most of the time.
There's about 11 states who have adopted favorable, and Utah's one of them actually, but they don't have a very good law. So we would never use Utah. California is not, it'll never be, but there's about 11 states. Alaska, South Dakota, Delaware, Nevada, those are the 4 leading states, I would say, with asset protection. We use the Cook Islands for offshore. They're about 4 hours east of New Zealand and 4 hours south of Hawaii. Cook Islands used to be part of New Zealand, now they're an independent country, but they're a protectorate of New Zealand. Most of their lawyers are New Zealand lawyers. Anyway, we do some of our clients own real estate, and in California that's a common thing, so we get involved in real estate. One of our clients a few months ago just bought a small strip center. So we can handle that. We can do the legal work on that, reviewing the contract, making sure the title, looking at the leases of the tenants. We can do all of that. Now, if you're a real estate lawyer, that's all you would do is real estate. But we do what our clients need us to do. They don't want to go to another lawyer if they're buying a strip center and they feel good, they have a comfort relationship with me. So they want me to be able to handle that. I can do that. Now, if they're doing a major subdivision, I can't do that. That's more specialized. But I can certainly help somebody buy a home in Newport for $5 million. And if they didn't have a lawyer help them to do that, they're crazy. Because even if they have a broker and an escrow company, if they'll look at the arrangement with the broker and the escrow company, in the small print it says, we don't know anything about the law, you should have your own lawyer, even though they don't tell you that. It's there in their agreement. And if anything happens, then they disclaim any responsibility. Probate and trust administration, this is very important. We just had a client come in the other day, $12 million estate, the husband died. It's very important that the surviving spouse, the wife, make sure that the trust is properly administered. And there's some estate tax and income tax consequences that are huge. And so that is very important that they properly administer the estate. The probate is a process where people need to go through if they don't have a living trust so that they can determine who the beneficiaries are and how to properly dispose of distribute the company and avoid and take care of the creditors and all of that. We don't have time to go into more than that. And then there's a lot of probate and trust litigation. People fight over money. And there's no litigation unless there's a lot of money at stake. We have a major case that we're representing now. We're representing the Disney heirs in a major litigation. It's millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars involved, and millions of dollars in legal fees. So most of the time, this can be a very good area for lawyers because they only fight if there really is money. Now, a lot of people fight. My mother said that I was supposed to get the piano. My sister's got it. But that's not going to end up in a lawsuit. That's going to end up in a fight. And it might be physical, but that's not going to end up in a lawsuit because there's not enough money to pay for the legal fees. What we did when we decided to really build our law firm we elevated our presence on the web. And you all got my website. You can look and see what we do. We have videos, we have articles, and I've got about 7 or 8 websites. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and all of that kind of stuff. Frankly, I don't understand much. I'm technologically challenged. I'm an old guy. My 5-year-old grandson can beat the crap out of me in video games. And every once in a while I'll say, Grandpa, I'll let you win the next one. And I told him, you never let anybody win anything. You take advantage of every opportunity you can to win. But anyway, so I hired somebody to help me to do that. So I have a marketing and practice development specialist that helps me to keep, because what I've learned is that, you know, for example, my cousin has been a mission president and a temple president, but he's a contractor. The church hires him to be the official representative of the church when they build a special temple. Now, why would the church need to do that? Because somebody needs to watch over the contractor and be there from the owner's perspective. And that's the same thing. You can hire somebody to help you to do your internet stuff, but somebody has to keep involved with that person to make sure that things are done right and that you're following up on that. So well, I have somebody that does that. I've decided to brand my practice as Wealth Counsel, Wealth Strategies Counsel. And there's a national company, though, that a national trade organization of estate planning lawyers. There's about 3,500 members and maybe about 1,200 law firms, and it's called Wealth Counsel. And we produce our own documents. We have education and practice development programs. And it's terrific because you have all these other lawyers reviewing your agreements and your trust and things, and so you know you're on the cutting edge, and you know you've got the right kind of protection that you need to make sure that you're up to date. We are of counsel to several offices. We've got one here in Salt Lake. I just met with my quote partner in Salt Lake this morning on a matter that he had. So we have offices in New York, Chicago, Detroit, any place where it might be a good place for me to go and get a write-off. Anyway, I have certain lawyers throughout the country that might call me up and say, Jeff, we have a specific situation with a high net worth client, and would you help me? Will you assist me in this kind of thing? And since I have the experience and the ability to process and produce documents and things, then I get involved on a co-counsel basis. Let me just tell you a little bit about the estate planning area for those of you who might be interested in getting it. It's tremendously competitive. There's a lot of lawyers who want to be estate planning lawyers, and so they're going to be challenged. You're going to find a lot of competition in that area. It's flat fee based. I love that because you don't have to get into an argument with a client about, oh, you billed me for this telephone call or anything like that. We give a flat fee, and they get a product for it too. It's like paying a dentist for a cavity. You don't like to pay it maybe, but you know what you're getting. And so you get it. The same thing with paying a flat fee. You don't have to keep track of, or you do keep track of your hours anyway, because for internal purposes. But the client doesn't have to get involved in trying to understand why you're doing this or why you're doing that, and if it's really. So that's a good thing about the estate plan. And you usually get a retainer. You get your money up front. And the other thing is you usually like your clients. My partners don't really like some of their clients. But I like my clients. They're good people, and they have values, and they're there so I can help them protect their family. So, you have to have new clients all the time. Why? Why do you think you have to have clients all the time? New clients. Because everybody doesn't do a will and a trust every day. So you're not going to have it. You have to have new clients. So you're always out there trying to get new clients. So that's one of the, And the personal relationship with the client is extremely critical. They have to like you. They have to trust you. Because you're handling things that do with their family and their very essence of what they are. So they have to like you. So if you're not good with people, don't be an estate planner. You need to be a litigator or something. But don't, you have to be able, people have to feel good about you. They have to like you. They have to trust you. Okay. You have to know how to gather information. You have to be able to listen. Lawyers like to talk. You can tell that just listening to me. But you have to shut up and find out what the client really wants, what their desires and objectives are. And then you have to have an internal process to produce the estate planning documents. And that is critical. Because clients are usually dilatory and delinquent in coming in and taking care of their trust and stuff. And then you don't want to further that delinquency by not getting the product out. And you can't get the rest of your fee until you produce the documents and they sign. So you have to get the documents out, and you have to have a process on how to do that. And if you end up doing your own drafting, you're going to lose money. So you got to be able to train other people to do the drafting if you really want to end up being successful. In the beginning, you guys are going to be doing the drafting. You're going to be doing your own word processing. But eventually, you don't want to be in that position. You want somebody else to do it so that you can be marketing yourself and meeting with clients and bringing in the money. What are the components of an estate planning practitioner? Well, you have to meet with clients. You have to find out their legal needs and objectives. You do this by a questionnaire and checklist. You have to propose a plan and a legal action, and then you have to supervise the implementation and follow-up that's involved with that. You're an administrator if you're a partner or an owner of a law firm. So you've got employees, you have internal accounting that you have to be aware of. You have to be concerned about your billing, and you have to have a system for that. You've got to be able to meet with the clients, but then you have to produce the documents. You have to have staff responsibilities. You have to have a receptionist. I fight with my own partners all the time about the receptionist. I finally won. They thought it should be just a low-paying thing and anybody could do it. I said, no, wait a minute. This is the first contact that a lot of our clients have with our firm. We need somebody that's attractive, that's nice, and knows how to treat people. And, they didn't want to pay that much for the receptionist because they don't really have a lot of clients coming in. They get 3 or 4 big cases, and that's all they, it's mostly by telephone and stuff, and they don't really care that much. I do. I get 2 or 3 clients a day coming in that are new clients. I want somebody out there that will welcome them and make them feel like they're special, because they are. And I want them to know, hey, we're your guys, and we treat you with respect and consideration. So anyway, that's a very important, billing is critical. You have to be able to have a system to keep track of your time and to bill the clients. And then you need follow-through with the clients. Now marketing, you have to have a marketing plan, and you have to be able to set aside time to do that so that people will get to know who you are. You have to be able to network with your referral sources. Who would the referral sources of an estate planner be? Bank officers, financial advisors, insurance agents, CPAs, other lawyers who don't practice estate planning. I get more referrals from other lawyers by 10 times than anybody else. And the reason I do is because I get a lot of continuing education seminars. So my name's out there and people know about me. Other lawyers know about me. You have to, if you're going out on your own, how are you going to do it? Are you going to have a shared office situation? Are you going to have a executive suite where there's other lawyers or there's other companies and everybody shares the conference room and a receptionist and stuff like that? Or are you going to have your own office that's complete? Where are you going to have your office? Is it going to be anywhere? You're going to build it and they will come? Well, that might happen. That might be a way you want to do it. But normally you're going to want an office where the action is. What are you going to name your firm? Is it going to be just the law offices of Jeffrey Matsen? That's what it was for me for a long time, but now it's Wealth Strategies Council. is the name of we branded our section of the firm, Wealth Strategies Council, a division of Bone, Matsen, Cagle, and Aguilera. I hate that name, Bone, Matsen, Cagle, and Aguilera. But Wealth Strategies Council, what do people think of when they think of Wealth Strategies Council? Somebody who is strategically involved in wealth counseling. And I want my clients to have money to pay my fees. Yes?
I'm just going to ask, in terms of having a firm name that's not the traditional law firm, last name kind of name, how is that, how do you feel that that's helped, or has it helped in terms of marketing and getting clients?
No, it's helped for the reason I've indicated, because it identifies you more properly. By the way, you have to have a voice logo and information. When people say, what do you do for a living? I don't say I'm a dumb attorney. They say, well, what do you do? And I say, well, I help people transfer and preserve their assets and pass them on to the next generation. And then they say, well, oh, really? Yeah, what does that involve? And I said, well, it involves drafting, analyzing from a legal standpoint, saving taxes, doing all these things. Oh, you're an attorney. But I don't just come out and say I'm an attorney. I get them involved in finding out what I do. And that's kind of my voice identification of who I am. Sometimes you have a geographical name. Orange County Law Firm. South Orange County Law Firm. Provo, it might be Provo Estate Planning Council or something like that. So there's a lot of different things you can do from a marketing standpoint. Internet, that's unbelievably important now. We get $50,000 a month in legal fees off the internet alone. Now why? Do you know anybody in the world, even your old grandpa that's as old as me, that doesn't Google? And what happens when you go on the internet? Is it just a little ad like a Yellow Pages? Or can you really find out about who the person is on the internet? So most of the time when I get a client off the internet, they're already sold on me. They already know that I'm a Worth Magazine top 100 attorney. They already know that I have the highest rating for competency and ethics by the national rating systems. They already know that I have written books, that I give lectures. They already know that I'm the guy. So when they come into the office, I just have to blow it. Maybe they think I have bad breath or something like that, or I look too old, or they make but most of the time, if I don't close on these people, I ought to go flush myself down the toilet. They already are sold on me. So that's why the internet is so important. So you have to spend money on your web, you have to have blogs, multiple sites, you have to be search engine optimization, all of that's important. You need to have a mission statement and goal. Why people will seek your services. Who do you want to be? You need to identify yourself. And why are you practicing law? So you need some goals. And you need a mission statement, just like any other business would need a business statement. Description of business. What area of the law are you going to want to concentrate in? Are you trying to get, some people want to represent car dealers. That's a niche, a business niche. Some want doctors or dentists. Some want, restaurant owners. There's a lot of different ways that you can, small manufacturing companies, construction companies. There's a lot of different niches that you can go after. Where is your office? That's an important thing. What kind of legal entity are you going to set up? And I don't have time to go into that, but there's different kinds of legal entities that a lawyer can have, and there's reasons for that. Operating structure, again, we've already talked about what your operation is going to be like. You have to be aware of the operating procedures and processing in a firm. Client processing. How do you get the client in? How do you follow up on clients? Word processing. How do you get the documents out? Who on your staff is responsible for that? Have you got internal checklists to make sure you don't make mistakes on anything? These are all important things. What kind of equipment are you going to have? How are you going to? What kind of software are you using? What about your computers? Do you have somebody that you can call if something happens to your computer? You know what happens when the computer goes down. It costs you thousands and thousands of dollars a day. So you have to be able to have technical support available. If not hired, you have to be able to subcontract that out and have access to that. Or you have to be a guru yourself. And if you're a guru yourself, you really don't have time to do everything else. So you're probably going to have to find somebody else. Okay, billing. Got to get your bills out. I'm going to Hawaii for 10 days in a week. That means that I'm going to be gone at the end of the month. We have to close early for September and get the bills out before I leave, because I have to review them. So firm-wide memo. Matsen's out he's leaving on September 30th for 10 days. The September bills have to go out early. The cutoff date will now be September 27th instead of September 30th. All of those things have to be taken into account. You have to understand. We use Well Docs, which is a part of this Well Council that I belong to. And those documents we've got access to those documents in the software systems. And parking, that's a big part of parking. Now, if you're just in a freestanding building, and Provo doesn't have the parking problems that New York or Chicago would have, but you have to realize, how are you going to do it? Are you going to validate for your client? If there's parking, where are they going to park? We have valet parking in front of our building, and clients love it. And we validate for about, but they see a big high-rise office building, and they say, where the hell am I going to park? Well, you can park right out in front. Or there's a parking structure across the street that you can park in, or you can go across the other street and park in the shopping center. But anyway, those are some things you have to take into account. And again, you have administration, you need an employee manual, office protocol. How do you dress, for example? My partners are litigators, they come to work in Levi's for all I know. But anybody in our division, we wear a coat and tie and a nice dress or pantsuit. Why? Because when people come in to sign contracts that it's affecting millions of dollars, we need a little more formality. We don't have to worry about being tough shirts because we're nice people, we're fun, but what we do have to be worried about is being too cavalier. And for those of you who are members of the church, you understand what the church's position is on why how you dress is important. And I agree with that how you dress affects how you act. Okay. All of this is part of the business plan. Credit cards. Do you take credit cards? We do. Because what happens is I want to close on the client while they're there. And if they didn't bring their checkbook, we'll take their credit card. The marketing plan, it has to be written. Who are you trying to reach? Who's your ideal client? Are you going after retail? That's the clients themselves, or are you going after wholesale? That's the advisors, your referral sources. We call that wholesale. And there are many ways to do it. I mean, let me count the ways. There are only about 1,000 different ways that you can market both retail and wholesale. You have to schedule the time to work it. Even young attorneys, let me tell you a story. I have a good friend who's a partner in Latham & Watkins, the biggest law firm in the world, national law firm. He is a brilliant guy. He represented one of the biggest landowners in the world. An absolutely brilliant guy. Been a stake president, really close friend of mine. He was forced to retire when he was 62, even though he didn't want to. Why? Because he didn't have any clients. He did work for everybody else, and they could find somebody else who was just as smart as he was and who could do the work just as well as he did and not pay them to have to have a partner. They could find somebody that's only 42. Now, on the other hand, somebody can be 72 and have clients, and they're not going to be forced to retire because they've got clients. So the person who has the clients is the one in a law firm who's got the leverage. So don't ever forget that. So even as a young lawyer, you need to start thinking about getting your own relationships, your own referral sources. The rule of 5, you should be able to get 5 times revenue for every dollar you spend in marketing. That's the rule of 5. If it doesn't bring you 5 times the revenue, the cost of it is not worth it. The client, the first impression, we went over that a little bit. The reception, the greeting. We have a sign that we put on the receptionist desk. Wealth Strategies Council warmly welcomes Brett Smith. So they come in and the client sees that guy. That's really nice. I mean, I'm really somebody, you know. And a lot of the clients even ask to take the sign home. But anyway, we want to make sure that they understand that they're important people, that they're going to be treated that way all the time they're with us. Your appearance, we talked about that. Your office, it has to reflect who you are. I've got 7 kids and 15 grandkids, so I've got pictures of my grandchildren and my children. Fortunately, most of them have been able to overcome their paternal hereditary defects. And they're good looking. I married a beautiful woman. And you know, so that's a smart thing for me to do. She's not so smart in that area. I reached up, she reached down. But what does that tell people? That tells people that I care about family. That's what they care about. That's why they're coming in. They want to protect their family. So that's how that works. They need to know a little bit about yourself. I'm a big sports fan. I've got sports pictures in my office. That sometimes is an area that we can talk about. And what you need to do, though, however, as an attorney, you try to find out who the client is. You need, what I call it, unmasking the client. I get them to tell me things about themselves on the first meeting that they wouldn't normally tell anybody. I had a wealthy widow in the other day, and she was telling me about her female problems and some of her, you know, really more than I wanted to know. But what does that mean? What happens when she does that? All of a sudden, there's a bonding, and all of a sudden there's a trust, and they build up. And so there's a feeling of, yeah, this is the guy that I want to represent. And so that's very important. The initial meeting with the client, you gather information, you listen to what the client's objectives are concerned on. You briefly design a plan in clients with less complicated estates. If they're more complicated estates, like the one I met with the Salt Lake lawyer this morning, then you need to get into a design and analysis. And you need to charge them a fee for that. Even without doing any work, you have to be able to study it out and come up with some sophisticated blueprints for saving them the taxes and doing what that you need to do. And then you need to close and commit. And the closing and committing is the rule of 4, or I call it U-RUB. The U is you have to show urgency to the client. They have to feel an urgency in order for them to take the step. Then you have to show how your strategy meets their needs and satisfies the urgency. They come in, well, I don't want mine to go through probate and have the state of California dictate how my assets are going to be distributed. So they feel that urgency. They're in there, and I want to make sure that all my wishes, my testamentary wishes, okay, well, you need a will and a trust. You need a power of attorney. So your recommendation. And then the third thing is the comfort level they feel with you. This is the most important part. Do they trust you? Do they like you? It's more important than whether you're qualified. You can be ill-qualified, but if they like you, they'll probably still do it. And then the fourth thing is the price fair. And why is the price fair? Because it's not an expense, it's an investment. They're investing in their own assets, they're investing in their family, and the other 3 things are yeses. There is an urgency, the recommendation is right, they have a trust and comfort level with you. And so when people say, well, let me think about it, this is what I say, well, this is what you need to think about. Do you have a need? Is what I've proposed, does it satisfy the need? Do you trust me? Do you feel a comfort level with me? If you were going to have your heart operated on, do you have the same comfort level that you have with me, that you would want with your surgeon? And then, is the price fair? And the reason the price is fair is because it's not an expense, it's an investment, and I know what I'm doing, I'm qualified, and I'm gonna make sure that you're taken care of. I'm gonna follow through. Now, can I have that $5,000 retainer? Well, I didn't bring my checkbook. Well, that's okay. We take credit cards. Now, why do you, as a lawyer, why do you have to be concerned with that? We've talked about that. You have to pay. You have to have money to maintain the law firm. So you don't think about that now as law students, but I've given you an idea that that's what you're going to have to think about later on. You have a process, and the process is very long and difficult. There's a lot of different things we've got to go through, and it's more than what you think, but if you can set up the process of getting the documents out, determining how they're going to be drafted, what they're going to be done, and then we have an operations manager who's a paralegal and an MBA, not a lawyer, knows more than 90% of most lawyers. But she's my boss. She slaps me around a little bit. And she said, Jeff, you had a meeting yesterday with this client. What happened? What's going to go on? And she makes up an action list every day, updated for everybody on our firm. She knows exactly what's going on all the time. She said, Jeff, you didn't call Nathan Johnson. You have to call him before you go home. And right before she leaves, she comes, did you call Johnson? Well, no, then call him right here. I'm standing here and waiting until you do it. That's what because I could get 50 phone calls a day. So I have to have somebody that, that slaps me around, that keeps me following through on what I'm supposed to do. She just called me on the way here when I was driving down. And she said, there's an email, you got to do this. And we worked it out that she would follow through and take care of it. These are all different things that you have to make. We have a maintenance program for our estate planning. They pay us it's like a warranty. They pay us a fee for an advance fee, and then we agree that they can have unlimited phone calls, that will update their trust at least once, that will talk to their CPA, that they won't get billed on a $500 an hour basis that they'd have to pay otherwise for me. So they're happy to pay us $1,000 a year for that maintenance program. And so, because they know that if they don't do that and they have any questions that they're going to be billed, have to worry about time, telephone calls, and everything else. And so that's a wonderful residual way of getting income. And also, what does it mean? It means that they're still their lawyer. You're kind of like their counsel. Yeah. You're their personal lawyer, and you want that. They go to their friend, oh, well, go to my personal lawyer, Jeff Matsen. He knows how to take care of people, and he's my lawyer. People like to have a lawyer. In our society, you need one. This is our Lisa. She's our firm operations manager. She's my boss. She slaps me around, and some people think it's kind of weird, but that's the way that operates. She keeps me going. She's unbelievable. Retail marketing directly to clients, seminars, websites. We have a video that we play. People will, with their statistics that show that people stay 6 times longer on your website if you have a video. And where is the most important part of a website? And where does your eye go to first? The upper left-hand corner. Wholesale, that's with meeting with advisors, CPAs, other third parties. Repeat business, I've shown you how we do this. We always, at the end of when a client comes in to sign the documents, like a trust or anything like that, we say, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for the honor of being your attorney. You've entrusted us with a really important thing. It's really a privilege for us to do this. And here's this letter. We want you to thank you very much for this opportunity. And by the way, let us remind you of the things that we do in our firm. And if you have had a good experience, which we hope you have, we hope that you will refer your friends and family members if this comes up in one of these areas. And then we let's just review the things we do. Estate planning, we represent small business owners, we do real estate, etc. So we follow up on that. There are estate planning niches. You can be, I have people who won't do some of the things that we do. They just want, they're a mill kind of, and they do a lot of middle-class trusts and wills. Others will only represent high net worth. Others specialize in elder law, Medicaid and medical. Some do only probated trusts. Some do family law. That's tied in. But you can, if you're an estate planning lawyer, you can combine some of these things. And this is a good idea to do. Business attorneys, it's very important that I think there's a good tie-in between a business attorney and an estate planning attorney. I sometimes get a client to do a business matter and I end up doing their estate plan. Vice versa, sometimes I get an estate planning client, I end up doing their business stuff. There's a lot of different niches that you can have as a business lawyer. Asset protection is critical, and as I said, we really stress, and this is one of our specialties, and I have a national and international representation in this. Who are some of the typical clients of estate planning attorneys who do asset protection? Well, there's a lot of different people. I'm going through this kind of quickly now. This is a kind of a structure that we use in asset protection, where we use an offshore or domestic asset protection trust, and that owns the property that the clients have, rather than they own it. The trust owns it. They get hit with a lawsuit, they've got some firewalls, they've got the dragon and the alligators in the moat, and make it much more difficult for creditors to get to them. There are client niches. We thought about that. I've got a friend who specializes in working with working moms. She's a working mom herself, and that's one of her specialties. Some people, they go after the Mormon client. They use that as a niche. Or a religious other. I've got a client who is in the Greek Orthodox community, and he gets a lot of business from that. There's a lot of ethnicity. I have another client who's a Korean in Los Angeles. There's lots of Koreans, and so he specializes in representing Koreans. So if you can get a niche, it's much more easy to brand yourself into market. Well, I've gone through this rather quickly. I know that some of you might have. I'm willing to answer any questions that you have now, or if not, I'll stay around for a while. And if any of you have any questions, does anybody have anything that you want to bring up now? Yes. You got to speak up because we're being taped.
So how did you determine that you were well suited for estate planning and that was where you wanted to go?
The question is, how did I determine that I wanted to get into this area, the estate planning? Well, I really wasn't sure I even wanted to be a lawyer. But when my parents had really emphasized getting an education, and I saw that I wanted to be involved in a profession. I wanted to have a set thing. So when I went to law school, I thought, I like business, and I want to be, it's kind of exciting to be involved in business and working with people. And I could see estate planning, people who are successful people, they're going to need to have an estate plan, and that's the kind of people I want to represent and be around. And so, I went to law school at UCLA. The first couple of weeks I was there, I said, oh my gosh, these people are all brilliant. But I figured out that, I wasn't as dumb as I thought I was, and secondly, that if you can figure things out even though you're not absolutely drop dead brilliant. You can learn to figure things out, and I did. I did well in law school, much to my surprise. Graduated order of coif, and I got that enabled me to kind of choose what I wanted to do. And I went to work with a big LA firm, and that was mostly in business and representing corporations and stuff. And then when I got on my own, I realized, I want to get into this area. This is a good area. So I just kind of felt this was something that I could do, and that this was the kind of clientele that I wanted to have. And I didn't want to be a litigator. And in practicing law, it's like they're different professions. You work for a big firm, it's a different profession than working for a small firm. It's completely different. Absolutely 100%. It's like a different job. If you work for the government, it's a different job. It's not. If you're a district attorney, it's completely different than doing what I do. So you're really, even though you're a lawyer, you're not really in the same profession. It's completely different. So what I do is completely different than a lot of lawyers. If you're a labor relations lawyer, it's completely different than what I do. So everything's different. But I tell young people if they're trying to determine what they want to do, just try to find some mentors. Try to latch on to some people that you think that you'd like to be like, or that you want to go into that area. But frankly, lots of times it's a matter of getting a job, and you got to do what you have to do. Right now, that's the way it is. I mean, Latham and Watkins let go of 20% of their staff 2 years ago. So, lots of times it's not a matter of your choice. You just have to do what you can find to do. But then you can start building. Once you understand, once you get the job, then you can start doing the things you need to do to kind of branch out and to find out where you want to go. I belong to this Wealth Council organization, which is tremendous for young lawyers to learn and to learn about developing their practice and how to, and education-wise too. That's a very good question, and I don't know if I have the answer, but those are just some of my thoughts. Anybody else? Yes?
Do you recommend getting experience in this field before starting your own firm, or do you think it's something that law students would do?
Yeah. Do I recommend getting experience before starting your own law firm? I think it's critical that you get experience before you start your own law firm. I don't think you know what you're doing when you start your own law firm. People who start their own law firm and are successful are really successful because they're entrepreneurs, they're not lawyers. And one of the things that we've made a mistake on in the United States is we are the only civilized country that doesn't require a residency and an internship for lawyers. And as a result of that, when I graduated from law school, lawyers were ranked as high as doctors in prestige. Now we're below construction laborers. And the reason is because there's no sense of professionalism, there's no mentoring, and a lot of lawyers are just out there to survive. You go to England and that's not the feeling at all. They still wear wigs and gowns. It's still, there's a professional sense of it. You go to Canada, you can go just right next door to us. It's different. Lincoln never went to law school, He was mentored. He had to serve an apprenticeship. So it's unbelievable what the profession has done, I think. And so my recommendation is get involved. Don't ever try to start your own practice. You may have to because you're desperate, but I'm just saying, I like the fact that I saw other lawyers, that they helped me to understand that it's a profession, that I have a duty to people, a duty of excellence, a duty of professionalism, a duty of integrity. And those were built into me by my parents and by our religion, but still, I'm glad that I had that professional experience too, and I could look up to people who really knew what they were doing and who did things the right way. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for your time and your attention. It's a great honor for me to be here. Thanks. Now let's beat the hell out of Central Florida. Well, we're going to do better than we did last week. No, I don't have a lot of confidence.
No, I mean, people around Provo, I don't think they're 50.
Oh, they're 38 to 3. They're hard.
So, I mean, they stumbled last week against Florida International.
Yeah, but everybody can stumble. They're good.
number one thing that's fast. I can let you
Yeah,
talk to these
all right.
students, but it's so good to be part of this.
Thanks,
for the
Freddie, I really
invitation.
appreciate it.
Good to see you.
See ya.
Thank you very much.
Thank
For the
you.
information. I was going to ask you, so you mentioned that you have national presence, and you mentioned the satellite offices and what kind of structure do you have with your satellite offices?
Well, I'm just a council like I am here. It's a good way for me to have a presence and
And how did you go about kind of establishing those relationships?
people I met through Wealth Council that I belong to. And met them and admired them, and they liked me, they were willing to, so we just kind of got together and I co-counseled with them. So now I can put that down and I have an office there, I don't have to spend any money.
Right.
And then they can call me up and say, Jeff, we've got a situation, what's your idea on this, you know?
Is it difficult to practice in multiple states? I mean, in terms of actually,
For what I do now, really. And now, if LegalZoom can do it, why the hell can't I? I mean, you know, anybody can practice law now. LegalZoom, they're practicing law.
Is that a concern that like legal?
It's a concern, I think, if you're representing middle-class people, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I like to represent upper class,
Right.
because they can pay my fee.
how do you get clients out of the mindset of not wanting to spend for the fees?
What you have to do is they have to know that they have to see the value. And they have to know that it's not an expense, it's an investment. And they have to know that they're going to get, it's like getting a return on their investment. So like I might tell a client, well, you know, you spent $500,000 on that commercial building, you know. Well, it cost you a little more than you thought it did. It cost you $525,000 because you have to pay my fee in order to protect that building, in order to provide a situation that that building will be there for your children. So when you write my check, it's not going to, I'm not going to flush it down the toilet. It's not like just taking the money and throwing it away. You're building your property. It's an investment. You know, I'm going to save you. Why don't we do this? Why don't you give me 10% of everything I save you? Why don't you pay me on a commission? Let's see. I just saved you $2 million in estate taxes. Give me. I'll take that $200,000 fee. And you're getting, let me introduce you to Lisa, our operations manager. She's going to be all over you to get us the information we need. She's going to follow through. All the I's are going to be, we're going to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Let me introduce you to my secretary. She's been here with her 15 years. You call her, she's going to take care of your problem. She's going to track me down. You're going to have service. So this is the opportunity you have to have, you know, our firm be your counsel. Why wouldn't you want to do this thing? Now, oh, you didn't bring your checkbook? Okay, we take that. Let me get the form. Anybody else? By the way, you're always selling yourself as an attorney. And you may not think of that now. You're just, you know, law students, you're trying to learn the law and everything. But when you're an attorney, you are selling yourself to people. They have to have confidence in you. And they have to think, hey, you're my guy, you're my gal. You've got my back. You're the kind of person I want to be in a foxhole with if somebody's overrunning us. And it doesn't hurt if you have some, you know, if you're, if you've got a pleasing personality, or you might be pretty good looking. You got it, whatever assets you have. You know, I can't rely on looks. I have to do other things. I wasn't that bad when I was younger, but I'm an old guy now, so people have to think I still got a little energy. I'm still ready to take them on, you know. I got to convey that to people. They don't want to think that I'm going to be retiring here. They got to feel like, hey, this guy is still, he's there. So those are some of the things you just have to, and sometimes it was like in the mission field. I once had a companion who was the most spiritual person in the world, and he was just, you know, like a saint, but he didn't baptize anybody because he wasn't very friendly. He wasn't warm. And so when I talked to him about that, he'd say, well, that's just not me. What do you mean it's just not you? I want to do. I mean, okay, so it's just not you, so go through and not baptize anybody. Is that why you're here? Then lighten up a little bit, be friendly, love people, you know. It may not be natural to your personality, but, you know, then change. You know, learn to be somebody that people like. Because that's the most important thing, not what you know, but whether they like you. That's the most important thing. Do people like you? Because that's the whole relationship that you have as a whole. Especially in doing the area that I am. They have to like you. And you take advantage of anything you can.
Do you think, like, since a lot of, like, the clients, the upper class ones are going to be the baby boomers, that they would have some hesitancy, you know, and because of the age gap, maybe interesting?
Now that's a problem, but so what do you do about it? You overcome it. If you're younger, then you're gonna, obviously it helps to have the gray hair, to have the wrinkles and stuff if you're dealing in that area. But at the same time, if you come across as somebody that they like and you're up, you know, you're high tech, you've got the, you know, then you get around that. But you have to learn to deal with older people. You have to like them. And older people who don't have money are not good clients. They're horrible. Because they're, first of all, older people are hardly, you know, they're kind of proud for you, you know, anyway. And then if they don't have money, then you're not getting paid. So you've got the worst of both worlds. And I'm not saying somebody doesn't have to represent them, but I'm saying, you know, that's not, frankly, I don't know. I do enough good that I feel good about what I do. I don't have to feel like I'm not doing any good. Because I help people make a difference. And I help good people.
Do you feel like in your area, since you deal with like real estate and small business, it'd be beneficial to get like a joint degree? That's something that you don't need.
Fine if you want to do it, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. Have you ever had like the itch, like since you work with real estate, to kind of, you know, invest on the side, like to do any, you know, instead of like kind of helping them do their own transactions?
Oh, I think that's a good idea. You can do that. You could be a broker and a lawyer too. Yeah, I think that's good.
Do you think in that instance it would be good to get a little more of a finance background, like to go back to the real estate business? Okay.
If you want to do that, fine. I don't have anything against it, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
It might be an advantage to get an LLM, for example, but you don't need it. But if you think, you know, it might help you. But if you're good enough in other ways, you don't need it. You know.
Do you have any experience with international estate planning?
Oh, I do a lot of it.
Because I'm originally from Germany.
You're working with?
I'm originally from Germany,
Yeah.
so that's where I grew up.
No, I do a lot of it. I have a lot of and that's a more specialized area, but it's a very good area. Because if you're dealing with the international estate planning, many people have money. That's why we'd be concerned about it. If they don't have money, they don't care.
Right.
They're not going to need your services anyway.
How would you go about going into that as like
I-
first year law student?
One way to do that is to get with an immigration. So that would be one way. Because people who are coming internationally, they need immigration assistance. So that'd be one way to do it.
Okay.
Another way to do it would be to get into a firm that does it. Another way to do it is to, you know, if you've got contacts in Germany, to go about it in that way.
Yes.
So you wouldn't necessarily just go to like a straight estate planning practice?
You only do that in
international
day, I
practice?
guess.
Would you
Yeah, you could do that. You could do it in estate planning practice, or you could
Here,
do
you
that
can
yourself.
go in a bit.
How many firms would you say?
I'm sorry?
How many firms would you say are doing international estate planning?
Very few. Very, very.
There's a lot of
They're going to be,
There's
if you're going to get on with one of those firms, you better be well. You know, because there are very few firms that do it. And they have to-
Very nice.
Because they're really-
really
So,
Miss one, you're like,
As far as like classes to take, is general corporation ones or estate, like?
You know, I think that those are all important. I find that a lot of the courses in law school are not practical. I'll tell you the best class I had in law school was a class called business planning. And I don't know if you have that here or not.
So you can also
but it
bring
was
in
a
actually
really
your
good
data.
class. Because it was more practical. It was about how you form an entity, why you would select this entity over another type of entity over another. It was more practical. Estate planning would be the same kind of class. The trust